Silence is not weakness. It is discipline sharpened into power. The Stoics understood something modern minds often forget. Not every thought deserves a voice, not every insult deserves an answer, and not every moment calls for noise. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire not through loudness but through restraint. In a world addicted to reaction, silence becomes rebellion. The following chapters are not about muteness, but mastery. Each chapter unveils moments where silence protects dignity, strengthens authority, and preserves inner peace. Read slowly. These words are meant to be absorbed, not rushed. Chapter 1. When anger demands your voice. Anger is the most tempting thief of silence. It arrives suddenly, heats the blood, tightens the jaw, and whispers that expression is necessary for relief. Yet the Stoic knows that anger does not ask for permission. It hijacks reason. When you speak while angry, your words do not belong to you. They belong to the emotion using you as its mouthpiece. In those moments, silence is not submission. It is self-command. The tongue held still during anger is a weapon sheathed, not surrendered. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that anger harms the vessel that carries it. Speaking in anger feels powerful only for a moment, but its consequences linger like scars. Words once released cannot be recalled. They settle into memory, relationships, and reputations. Silence, however, buys time. Time cools the fire, restores clarity, and returns authority to the mind. A silent pause during anger is an act of intelligence, not avoidance. It is the recognition that clarity cannot coexist with rage. The Stoic understands that most provocations are tests. Someone insults you, challenges you, or disrespects you not to discover truth, but to provoke reaction. When you answer immediately, you fail the test. Silence unsettles the aggressor. It denies them the emotional reward they seek. In that quiet space, power shifts. The one who controls their response controls the encounter. Anger spoken aloud hands control to another. Anger swallowed and examined restores sovereignty. There is also the illusion that silence equals defeat. This belief is taught by ego, not wisdom. True defeat occurs when anger forces you into words you later regret. Silence allows you to choose if and when speech is necessary. Stoicism does not forbid speech. It demands that speech be deliberate. When anger surges, the first duty is not expression, but observation. Watch the sensation. Feel the heat. Let it pass. What remains after anger fades is what deserves to be said. Anger often disguises itself as righteousness. You believe you are defending truth, honor, or justice. Yet anger rarely speaks for justice. It speaks for wounded pride. The Stoic separates principle from emotion. If something truly requires correction, it can wait until the mind is steady. Silence during anger ensures that when words finally come, they carry weight rather than volatility. Calm speech corrects. Angry speech escalates. There is a deeper discipline at work here. Silence trains the mind to pause between impulse and action. This pause is where freedom lives. Without it, you are reactive, predictable, and easily manipulated. With it, you become deliberate and composed. Each time you remain silent during anger, you strengthen this inner muscle. Over time, anger loses its grip. Because it no longer controls your behavior, silence also protects dignity. Anger often pushes people to explain themselves excessively, justify emotions, or attack character. None of these elevate your position. Dignity thrives in restraint. When others see that you are not easily provoked, their perception of you changes. You are no longer someone to toy with. You become someone measured, formidable, and respected. Silence creates an aura of authority words cannot manufacture. Stoicism teaches that we cannot control the actions of others, only our judgments about them. Anger arises when we believe we have been wronged in a way that must be addressed immediately. Silence challenges this belief. It asks, is this truly harmful or merely uncomfortable? Most offenses dissolve under scrutiny. What remains is often trivial. Silence prevents you from inflating minor slights into lasting conflicts. When anger is met with silence, something remarkable happens internally. The nervous system calms. The breath deepens. The mind regains its balance. You begin to see options rather than reactions. This is not suppression. Suppression hides emotion until it erupts later. Stoic silence is conscious containment. You acknowledge anger without letting it govern your actions. This distinction is crucial. Words spoken in anger often aim to wound, not resolve. They seek to restore ego through dominance. Silence refuses this game. It does not mean you accept mistreatment. It means you refuse to respond on terms dictated by emotion. You choose the battlefield. You choose the moment. And often you choose peace over performance. In leadership, anger expressed publicly erodes trust. In relationships, it breeds resentment. In personal discipline, it reinforces impulsivity. Silence interrupts this cycle. It signals maturity to others and stability to yourself. It proves that you are not ruled by every passing feeling. This mastery is rare, and rarity commands respect. The Stoic does not fear silence during anger because he knows silence is temporary, while damage can be permanent. He understands that the strongest response is sometimes no response at all. When the storm passes, speech can be precise, measured, and effective. Until then, silence stands guard. Anger wants to be heard immediately. Wisdom is willing to wait. Silence is that wait made visible. It is the quiet declaration that you are not enslaved by emotion, that your character is stronger than your impulses, and that your peace is not negotiable. In this silence, power is preserved, clarity is restored, and the mind remains unconquered. Chapter 2. When you are criticized or insulted. Criticism is one of the most common traps laid for the ego. It arrives dressed as truth, concern, mockery, or authority, but its true function is often to provoke defense. When someone criticizes you, especially in public, the instinct to respond immediately feels justified. You want to correct, explain, or strike back. Yet Stoicism teaches that not all criticism deserves a reply, and most insults lose their force when they meet silence instead of resistance. The first thing the Stoic understands is this: criticism reveals more about the speaker than the subject. People criticize to assert dominance, to relieve insecurity, or to elevate themselves through comparison. When you respond impulsively, you validate their attempt. Silence refuses to participate in the theater. It strips the critic of the audience they crave and forces their words to stand alone, unsupported by your reaction. There is also the illusion that silence implies guilt. This belief is rooted in fear, not reason. Guilt requires evidence, not noise. The Stoic does not rush to defend what is solid. Truth does not need shouting. When your character and actions are consistent, silence becomes confidence made visible. Those who matter notice the steadiness. Those who don't were never convinced by words anyway. Insults, in particular, are designed to bypass reason. They aim straight for emotion. A sharp comment, a sarcastic remark, a dismissive tone, these are hooks meant to pull you into a reactive state. Silence cuts the line. Without emotional feedback, insults fall flat. They echo briefly, then disappear. The Stoic recognizes that reacting gives insults longevity, while silence starves them. Criticism can be divided into two kinds: useful and useless. Useful criticism contains truth and offers an opportunity for growth. Useless criticism seeks only to diminish. Silence helps you separate the two. When you do not respond immediately, you gain space to evaluate. If the criticism is valid, you can address it calmly later. If it is empty, silence has already handled it. Public criticism intensifies the pressure. Pride urges you to protect your image in front of others. But image management through argument is fragile. The Stoic focuses on substance over perception. Silence in public criticism demonstrates composure under pressure. It shows that your self-worth is not negotiated in real time with every observer. This steadiness often earns more respect than any clever rebuttal. There is power in letting others expose themselves. When someone criticizes excessively or cruelly and you remain silent, observers begin to question the critic's motives. Their words start to sound less like insight and more like insecurity. Silence allows this process to unfold naturally. Intervention would only blur the contrast. Restraint sharpens it. Stoicism does not demand passivity. Silence is not the absence of action. It is delayed action guided by reason. There are moments when response is necessary, but timing matters. A response delivered calmly, after reflection, carries authority. A response delivered defensively in the heat of criticism carries desperation. Silence ensures you choose the former, not the latter. Another reason silence matters is internal. Criticism can destabilize the mind if absorbed carelessly. Responding immediately keeps you entangled with the critic's perspective. Silence allows you to step back and examine your own standards instead. You ask yourself whether the criticism aligns with your values and goals. If it does not, it loses relevance. If it does, it becomes instruction rather than insult. The Stoic trains himself to expect criticism, not because he seeks it, but because he understands human nature. Excellence attracts judgment. Visibility invites commentary. Silence is the armor that allows you to move forward without carrying every opinion with you. You are not required to carry what others throw. Defending yourself constantly is exhausting. It turns life into a courtroom where every action requires justification. Silence ends this trial. It declares that your life is not a debate. You answer to your principles, not to every voice demanding explanation. This mental boundary preserves energy and focus. Silence also prevents escalation. Criticism answered with argument often becomes conflict. Conflict invites sides, and sides demand loyalty. Silence dissolves this chain. Without engagement, disputes struggle to grow. What could have become a lasting feud often fades into irrelevance. The Stoic values peace not because he fears conflict, but because unnecessary conflict wastes time and clarity. When you remain silent under criticism, you reclaim authorship of your narrative. You decide when and how you speak. You are no longer reacting to external cues, but acting from internal alignment. This autonomy is the core of Stoic strength. It is quiet, unflashy, and deeply effective. In the end, silence under criticism is an expression of self-trust. It says, "I know who I am, and I do not need to prove it on command." This trust cannot be shaken by insults or opinions because it is built on reflection, not applause. Words may bruise, but silence heals and hardens simultaneously. Criticism will always exist. So will insults. The Stoic does not attempt to eliminate them. He simply refuses to let them dictate his behavior. In that refusal, silence becomes a shield, a filter, and a statement of inner stability. It is not weakness. It is control refined into habit. Chapter 3. When you are provoked or disrespected. Provocation is deliberate friction. It is an attempt to disturb your balance by challenging your status, patience, or sense of worth. Disrespect often wears subtle masks: sarcasm, dismissal, condescension, or deliberate ignorance. These acts are rarely accidental. They are invitations to react. The Stoic understands that provocation is not about truth or resolution. It is about control. Whoever provokes seeks to pull you onto their emotional terrain. Silence refuses to step onto that ground. The first impulse when disrespected is to reclaim dignity through confrontation. The ego equates silence with surrender. Yet Stoicism reframes dignity as something internal, not granted or revoked by others. When you speak in response to provocation, you signal that your dignity is negotiable, dependent on acknowledgement. Silence communicates the opposite. It declares that your self-respect is not contingent on another person's behavior or opinion. Provocation feeds on immediacy. It relies on speed, shock, and impulse. Silence disrupts this mechanism. When there is no instant response, the provocation loses momentum. The instigator is left exposed, standing alone with their behavior. This moment often reveals the imbalance clearly. The Stoic does not rush to correct disrespect because time itself often does the work more effectively than words. There is also strategic clarity in silence. Not every act of disrespect requires confrontation. Some require distance. Some require observation. Some require no action at all. Silence creates space to decide which path serves you best. Immediate response removes choice. Delayed response restores it. Stoicism values choice over compulsion because choice is where freedom resides. Many provocations are tests of boundaries. They probe to see what will trigger you. When silence answers these probes, boundaries harden naturally. Others learn quickly what will not earn a reaction. This is not avoidance. It is conditioning through restraint. Over time, provocations decrease because they no longer produce results. Silence becomes a deterrent more effective than aggression. Disrespect often aims to reduce you in the eyes of others. Public provocations seek performance, not resolution. Silence denies the spectacle. Observers notice who maintains composure and who seeks attention through disruption. Authority does not announce itself loudly. It reveals itself through steadiness. The Stoic trusts that composure speaks more clearly than confrontation ever could. There is an internal benefit as well. Responding to provocation reinforces emotional dependency. You become reliant on external behavior to determine your internal state. Silence breaks this dependency. It trains the mind to remain centered regardless of stimulus. This emotional independence is a core Stoic goal. It is the difference between being moved by the world and moving through it. Silence also protects against escalation. Provocation answered with confrontation often invites retaliation. What begins as a minor slight can become a prolonged conflict fueled by pride. Silence cuts this chain early. It prevents unnecessary battles that drain focus and clarity. The Stoic chooses battles deliberately, not emotionally. This does not mean enduring abuse passively. Stoicism distinguishes between silence as strength and silence as fear. Strength-based silence is chosen, not forced. It is accompanied by awareness and readiness. When action is required, it is taken calmly and decisively. Silence simply ensures that action is not poisoned by impulse. Provocation loses power when you see it clearly. Often it stems from insecurity, envy, or frustration in the other person. Understanding this does not excuse behavior, but it dissolves its emotional charge. Silence becomes easier when you recognize that disrespect says more about the source than the target. You are not obligated to absorb what was never meant to be constructive. There is elegance in restraint. A person who remains silent when provoked demonstrates mastery over self, which is the highest form of mastery. This self-command cannot be faked. It is built through repeated discipline. Each act of silent restraint strengthens character. Each refusal to react sharpens discernment. The Stoic also remembers impermanence. Provocations are fleeting moments. Responding can immortalize them. Silence allows them to pass without engraving them into memory or narrative. Most disrespect is not worth carrying forward. Silence ensures it stays where it belongs, in the past. In professional settings, silence under provocation signals confidence. In personal relationships, it prevents unnecessary damage. In inner life, it preserves peace. The benefits compound quietly but powerfully. Silence does not erase boundaries. It enforces them invisibly. Ultimately, provocation tests whether you belong to yourself or to your impulses. Silence answers this test decisively. It says you are governed by reason, not reaction. You do not perform for disrespect. You do not negotiate dignity. You remain intact. When provoked, silence is not emptiness. It is intention withheld. It is strength unspent. It is the calm refusal to be pulled into another person's chaos. In that refusal, the Stoic remains unmoved, unbroken, and unmistakably in control. Chapter 4. When you are misunderstood or misjudged. Being misunderstood is one of the quiet frustrations of life. You act with clear intent, yet your actions are interpreted through someone else's bias, insecurity, or limited perspective. Misjudgment feels unfair because it denies recognition of truth. The instinct is to correct the record immediately, to explain motives, to defend character. Stoicism, however, teaches restraint. Silence in moments of misunderstanding is not indifference to truth. It is patience with reality. The Stoic accepts an uncomfortable fact early. You cannot control how others interpret you. No amount of explanation guarantees understanding. People hear what aligns with their beliefs and ignore what challenges them. When you rush to clarify every misjudgment, you place your peace at the mercy of perception. Silence withdraws that permission. It reminds you that truth does not dissolve simply because it is unseen. Misunderstanding often arises not from malice but from limitation. Others lack context, emotional maturity, or willingness to look deeper. Silence allows you to recognize this without resentment. Responding emotionally assumes bad intent. Silence leaves room for complexity. It keeps your judgment clean while others wrestle with their own conclusions. There is also strategic wisdom in silence. Explanations given too early are rarely received well. When emotions or assumptions dominate, words bounce off defensiveness. Silence allows time for observation, for patterns to reveal themselves, and for facts to speak louder than arguments. Over time, consistency corrects misunderstandings more effectively than speeches ever could. The Stoic values alignment over approval. If your actions align with your principles, misunderstanding becomes tolerable. Silence reinforces this alignment. It says that your compass is internal, not calibrated by opinion. This steadiness builds resilience. You stop living reactively and start living deliberately, guided by values rather than validation. Misjudgment can tempt you into overexposure. You explain, justify, and reveal more than necessary, hoping clarity will emerge. Often it does the opposite. Too many words create new angles for distortion. Silence protects simplicity. It keeps your intentions intact rather than fragmented by excessive explanation. There is dignity in letting others be wrong about you. It feels counterintuitive, but dignity thrives when you do not beg for recognition. Silence communicates confidence in your path. It allows others to revise their judgments organically or remain mistaken without dragging you into endless correction. Stoicism also recognizes timing. Silence does not mean never speaking. It means waiting until speech can be effective rather than reactive. When the moment is right, a few calm words can dissolve months of misunderstanding. Silence ensures those words are chosen wisely and delivered with clarity rather than desperation. Being misunderstood tests patience more than pride. Patience accepts that clarity unfolds gradually. Pride demands immediate correction. Silence trains patience by reminding you that your responsibility ends with right action, not right perception. This distinction is liberating. You release the burden of managing narratives and focus on managing conduct. Misjudgment can also be instructive. It reveals how others think, what they value, and where they project. Silence allows you to learn from this without becoming defensive. Observation replaces argument. Insight replaces irritation. The Stoic uses misunderstanding as information, not insult. There is an internal quiet that emerges when you stop chasing understanding. You become lighter, less tense, more focused. Silence creates this quiet by removing the constant need to explain yourself. In that quiet, self-respect grows. You trust yourself more because you are no longer outsourcing certainty. In relationships, constant clarification can erode connection. Silence, paired with consistent behavior, builds trust over time. People may misunderstand once, but patterns eventually speak. The Stoic trusts patterns more than promises. Silence gives patterns room to form. Misjudgment often feels personal, but it is rarely precise. People project their fears, experiences, and narratives onto others. Silence keeps you from internalizing these projections. You acknowledge them without absorbing them. This emotional boundary preserves mental health and clarity. The desire to be understood is human, but the need to be understood by everyone is a trap. Silence helps you release this need. It reminds you that being misunderstood does not diminish your worth or direction. It simply reveals difference in perception. In professional life, silence under misjudgment signals composure. In personal growth, it builds inner strength. In character, it fosters humility without self-erasure. Silence balances self-respect with acceptance of imperfection in others. Ultimately, silence, when misunderstood, is an act of faith in truth over noise. It trusts that what is real endures, while opinions shift. It keeps you anchored while others drift through assumptions. You remain steady, not because you are unseen, but because you are unshaken. Misunderstanding may sting, but silence transforms it into discipline. It teaches you to stand firm without shouting, to move forward without dragging explanations behind you, and to live accurately even when perceived inaccurately. In this silence, the Stoic remains whole, grounded, and free. Chapter 5. When you are tempted to explain yourself. The urge to explain yourself is subtle but powerful. It arises when you feel questioned, doubted, or quietly accused. You sense that others may be forming conclusions without full information, and instinct pushes you to fill the gaps with words. Stoicism treats this impulse with caution. Explanation, when driven by insecurity, weakens presence. Silence, when chosen deliberately, restores it. The Stoic understands that excessive explanation is often a symptom of inner unrest. When you are secure in your values and decisions, you do not feel compelled to narrate them constantly. You act, observe the outcome, and adjust if needed. Explanation becomes necessary only when it serves clarity, not comfort. Silence filters motive. It forces you to ask whether you are speaking to inform or to soothe anxiety. Many people explain themselves in advance, hoping to prevent judgment. This habit hands power to imagined critics. You begin living defensively, shaping actions around potential misunderstanding rather than purpose. Silence interrupts this pattern. It anchors you in the present instead of hypothetical reactions. You stop negotiating with ghosts and start standing firmly in what you know. Over-explaining often backfires. The more you say, the more material you offer for scrutiny, distortion, or doubt. Words intended to clarify can raise new questions. Silence preserves simplicity. It allows your actions to remain uncluttered by commentary. The Stoic trusts that consistency speaks louder than justification. There is also a hidden cost to constant explanation. It erodes authority. Authority is not asserted through persuasion alone. It is projected through certainty. When you explain every choice, you signal uncertainty, even if none exists. Silence communicates confidence. It implies that your decisions are rooted in thought, not impulse, and do not require approval to stand. Stoicism teaches that not everyone is owed access to your reasoning. Privacy is not deception. Silence draws healthy boundaries between what is necessary to share and what is sacred to keep internal. You are not required to expose your thought process to earn legitimacy. Your life is not a public ledger. The temptation to explain intensifies when silence is misinterpreted. You fear that without words, others will assume the worst. Stoicism challenges this fear directly. You cannot control assumptions, only actions. Silence frees you from the exhausting task of managing impressions. It allows you to invest energy where it matters rather than where it is merely visible. Explanation can also trap you in contradiction. Once you explain, you are expected to maintain consistency with that explanation, even as circumstances change. Silence leaves room for evolution. It allows you to adapt without appearing inconsistent. The Stoic values flexibility guided by principle, not rigidity bound to past statements. In emotional situations, explanations often escalate rather than resolve. When feelings are raw, logic is rarely received. Silence prevents emotional negotiation. It gives time for intensity to fade, so that communication, if needed, can occur from stability rather than urgency. This timing protects relationships from unnecessary damage. There is strength in letting your choices stand on their own. Silence signals that you trust the outcome of your actions more than the approval of observers. This trust builds self-respect. Each time you resist the urge to explain prematurely, you reinforce internal alignment. You begin acting from conviction rather than defense. The Stoic also recognizes that explanation can become a form of self-betrayal. You soften decisions to appear reasonable. You dilute boundaries to avoid discomfort. Silence preserves firmness. It keeps your edges intact. You remain clear about what you will and will not tolerate, without dramatizing or justifying those limits. Silence does not mean secrecy for its own sake. It means discretion. When explanation genuinely serves understanding, it is offered calmly and concisely. When it serves ego, fear, or approval seeking, it is withheld. This discernment is refined through practice. The Stoic listens closely to intention before opening the mouth. In professional life, silence under questioning can elevate stature. It shows that you are not rattled by scrutiny. In personal life, it prevents oversharing that later breeds regret. Internally, it cultivates peace. You stop rehearsing defenses and start inhabiting presence. The habit of silence also sharpens listening. When you are not busy explaining, you observe more. You notice tone, intention, and pattern. This awareness strengthens judgment. You become less reactive and more precise. Silence becomes not emptiness but heightened attention. The world often confuses transparency with virtue. Stoicism disagrees. Virtue lies in integrity, not exposure. Silence protects integrity by keeping it centered rather than scattered across explanations. You remain whole because you are not constantly fragmenting yourself into narratives for others. Ultimately, resisting the urge to explain yourself is an act of self-trust. It says you believe in your judgment enough to let it stand without commentary. It affirms that you do not need constant validation to exist confidently. Silence becomes a quiet declaration of independence. When you no longer rush to explain, you move differently, slower, calmer, more deliberate. You stop chasing understanding and start embodying clarity. In that embodiment, explanations become unnecessary. Silence does the work quietly, steadily, and completely. Chapter 6. When silence becomes your final statement. There comes a stage in discipline where silence is no longer a tactic but an identity. It is not chosen moment by moment under pressure. It is embodied. At this level, silence is not restraint alone, but resolution. You no longer feel the constant pull to react, correct, defend, or dominate through words. You understand that your presence itself speaks. This is the final refinement of Stoic silence, where quiet becomes your most powerful statement. Most people speak to assert existence. They fear being overlooked, dismissed, or forgotten. Words become proof of relevance. The Stoic, however, learns that relevance is not declared. It is demonstrated. When your actions are aligned, consistent, and principled, silence no longer threatens invisibility. It reinforces substance. You stop announcing who you are and allow reality to confirm it. At this stage, silence is no longer reactive. It is proactive. You choose quiet not because you are challenged, but because you are complete. There is nothing to add, nothing to prove, nothing to negotiate. This completeness is felt by others instinctively. They sense boundaries without them being spoken. They feel weight in your presence without hearing a word. The Stoic who reaches this point understands that words are tools, not crutches. Tools are used sparingly and with purpose. Silence becomes the default, speech the exception. When you finally speak, it lands with precision. People listen because they know you do not waste language. Scarcity gives words gravity. Silence also becomes protection. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Not every thought should be externalized. By keeping silence as your baseline, you preserve clarity. You are less influenced, less fragmented, less drained. Your energy remains intact because it is not constantly leaking through unnecessary expression. There is a psychological shift that occurs here. You stop measuring yourself through interaction. You no longer replay conversations, analyze responses, or regret phrasing. Silence simplifies the mind. Fewer words mean fewer mental echoes. Peace deepens because attention is no longer scattered across imagined dialogues. This level of silence also reshapes relationships. Some people drift away, uncomfortable with your lack of performative engagement. Others draw closer, sensing depth and stability. You no longer chase connection through explanation or expression. You allow resonance to determine proximity. This natural filtering refines your environment. Silence becomes a mirror. Those around you project into it. Their insecurities surface. Their intentions reveal themselves. Because you are not filling the space with noise, truth has room to emerge. You see people more clearly, not because you interrogate them, but because you observe without interference. There is also a moral clarity in this silence. You act according to principle, not reaction. You do not argue values, you live them. This quiet consistency becomes unassailable. Critics find little to grasp. Provocateurs find no traction. Silence turns you into an unmoving reference point. The Stoic at this stage understands impermanence deeply. Moments pass. Opinions shift. Conflicts dissolve. Silence aligns with this understanding. You no longer rush to mark every moment with words. You let life move without commentary. This acceptance lightens the soul. Importantly, this silence is not coldness. It is warmth without noise, compassion without performance, presence without intrusion. You listen fully. You respond only when response adds value. Others feel seen, not because you speak often, but because when you do, it matters. There is freedom here. Freedom from approval. Freedom from defense. Freedom from constant articulation. You reclaim time, energy, and mental space. Silence becomes spaciousness. In that space, insight grows naturally. The Stoic does not disappear into silence. He becomes anchored by it. He is engaged but not entangled. Expressive but not exposed. Firm but not rigid. Silence balances all of this. It is the equilibrium point between self and world. When conflict arises, silence keeps you grounded. When praise comes, silence keeps you humble. When misunderstanding persists, silence keeps you steady. When temptation to speak flares, silence reminds you that restraint is strength remembered. This final silence is not taught easily because it cannot be memorized. It is earned through repetition. Each earlier silence under anger, insult, provocation, misunderstanding, and explanation builds toward this state. The discipline compounds quietly until silence feels natural, even necessary. At this point, silence is no longer a response. It is your posture toward life. You move with intention. You speak with precision. You rest in certainty. Nothing urgent pulls at you because you are no longer ruled by impulse. And when you finally choose to speak, it is not to fill space, but to shape it. This is the Stoic silence Marcus Aurelius lived by. Not emptiness, but mastery. Not withdrawal, but command. Not weakness, but a strength so settled it no longer needs display. In the end, silence does not make you invisible, it makes you unmistakable.